Welcome to American National Government. In this course, you will discuss the purpose, structure, and evolution of United States government.
I'm Jordan O'Connell, History and Government Instructor at Northeast Iowa Community College. This lecture distills a decade of my written notes taken from American Government Roots and Reform, American Government by Lenz and Holman, and our course-assigned OpenStax American Government textbook. This lecture focuses on party platforms as the coalition menu. The core question is this: what is a party platform worth when it promises moral clarity on paper but survives only by stitching together voters, donors, factions, and strategic ambiguity? The core competency is to outline the structures, organization, and policy platforms of the major parties currently on the ballot.
What is a party platform worth when it promises moral clarity on paper but survives only by stitching together voters, donors, factions, and strategic ambiguity? The stakes become real when platform committees bargain over verbs, omissions, and priorities that must hold donors, activists, office holders, and voters in one document. A party platform is one of the strangest documents in American politics. It is official, but it is not a statute. It is public, but many voters never read it. It claims principle, but it also manages factions. It can guide candidates, but candidates may emphasize, soften, or ignore pieces of it once the campaign begins. A platform is the coalition menu. It tells voters what the party is willing to put in writing when labor groups, religious groups, business donors, activists, elected officials, consultants, and candidates must share one political product. As of June 2026, the Democratic Party's official platform page points to its current platform materials, and the Republican National Committee's 2024 platform remains the official Republican baseline until the party formally replaces it. That date controls the reading. Platform analysis has to name the document and the version because parties update language through conventions, candidate strategy, and coalition pressure. The serious question is what the official document says now, what it omits, which coalition it serves, and how campaign behavior compares with the text. Platforms bundle unlike interests into one public offering. A party may need union households, suburban professionals, rural voters, religious voters, young activists, corporate donors, veterans, small business owners, racial groups, environmental advocates, gun rights voters, or social conservatives. Those groups do not all want the same thing with the same intensity. The platform must hold them together long enough to win elections and govern. The civic problem is that platforms both reveal and disguise. They reveal priorities because parties choose words, headings, and promises. They disguise conflict because a big tent cannot narrate every internal fight honestly. Platform reading therefore becomes a form of civic close reading. Citizens must examine verbs, omissions, ordering, specificity, and enforceability. Party platforms grew out of the need to coordinate national campaigns. A convention gathers delegates, presents nominees, adopts rules, stages unity, and announces priorities. The platform is part governing agenda, part coalition contract, part campaign resource, and part signal to activists who want evidence that the party hears them. It also gives the opposition a target. Every sentence can become an attack ad, which is one reason parties sometimes choose vagueness. The National Convention carries force because parties are federated organizations, not one central brain. State parties, local organizations, caucuses, interest groups, elected officials, donors, campaign staff, and activists all press for language. A plank on healthcare may speak to patients, unions, doctors, insurers, budget hawks, and ideological factions at once. A plank on immigration may speak to employers, border communities, religious groups, security voters, immigrant families, and legal process advocates. A plank on energy may speak to climate activists, oil workers, utility companies, rural communities, and consumers worried about prices. Platform committees turn this pressure into text. Members debate drafts, receive proposed language, weigh amendments, and negotiate phrases that can pass inside the party while surviving outside attack. A verb can carry force. A party may say it will protect, expand, restore, secure, defend, reduce, invest, or oppose. Each verb signals a level of commitment and an imagined institution that must act later. Platform writing is therefore a small legislative rehearsal. Coalition members fight over words because words announce future claims on money, law, courts, agencies, and executive action. The alternative would be a party with no platform or a candidate-only campaign. That approach can avoid internal fights and let candidates improvise. It also weakens public accountability because voters lose a written reference point. Another alternative would be a long, detailed platform that reads like a policy manual that can clarify commitments, but it can also expose every internal conflict and bury voters under technical promises that few candidates intend to prioritize. This is why platforms often mix specificity and abstraction. A party may name a tax proposal, defend a court nomination philosophy, promise border enforcement, protect an entitlement program, or call for voting protections. It may also use broad terms like freedom, security, opportunity, family, democracy, fairness, workers, or strength. Those words do political work. They let different factions hear themselves inside the same sentence. The Democratic and Republican platforms also function inside a two-party system shaped by single-member districts and first-past-the-post elections. Because third parties rarely win major national power, many interests try to work inside one of the two large tents. That pressure makes platforms less ideologically pure and more strategic. Parties must hold enough of their base while reaching persuadable voters and avoiding commitments that fracture their coalition. Platform language works best as evidence, not scripture. It reveals what party leaders and delegates are willing to say officially at a given time. It does not prove what every candidate believes. It does not guarantee Congress will pass the plank. It does not remove the need to compare records, budgets, judicial appointments, agency action, and actual votes. Party platforms came out of the national convention system that matured in the 19th century as parties needed a public record of who their nominees were and what broad principles the ticket claimed to defend. Convention committees, state delegations, caucus leaders, and party chairs gradually turned those gatherings into staged negotiations over rules, candidate legitimacy, and coalition language. By the 20th century, the Convention Platform Committee had become a formal drafting site where interest groups, elected officials, donors, labor organizations, advocacy networks, and regional delegations all tried to get preferred language into the final text. That federated structure carries force because American parties are not unitary organizations. State parties answer to different electorates, filing systems, and donor habits. Urban machines, suburban reform blocs, rural county chairs, national ideological caucuses, and presidential campaign staffs often want different words for the same issue. A platform plank on abortion, border enforcement, climate regulation, labor law, or school policy has to survive committee drafting, floor bargaining, press scrutiny, and later use by candidates in very different districts and states. Platform versioning makes the institutional setting even tighter. One convention adopts the official text, but campaigns, national committee websites, candidate issue pages, and later convention updates can reshape what the public sees. That is why a dated official platform carries more force than a television summary or a secondary source paraphrase. The record is political ink laid down at a particular moment by a coalition trying to preserve unity without surrendering every internal fight. The platform process creates pressure for everyone inside the party. Delegates want recognition for their constituencies. Activists want stronger language. Candidates want room to maneuver. Donors want reassurance. Campaign professionals want phrases that poll well. Elected officials want promises that can survive governing. State parties want local concerns reflected. National committees want unity on camera. Consider a labor plank. Unions may want clear support for collective bargaining, wage standards, workplace safety, and labor board enforcement. Business-aligned donors may worry about regulation, taxes, and compliance cost. A party trying to hold both constituencies must decide whether to write a sharp enforcement promise, a softer pro-worker statement, or a broader economic paragraph that lets each faction claim partial victory. That is not accidental vagueness, it is coalition management. Religious and cultural issues create similar strain. A party may need voters who care intensely about abortion, religious liberty, LGBTQ rights, school policy, or parental authority. These issues resist easy compromise because supporters often treat them as moral first principles rather than budget choices. Platform language then becomes a pressure valve. It signals who has leverage inside the coalition and who has accepted strategic silence for the sake of winning. Corporate and donor interests add another layer. Parties require money for campaigns, legal work, data, travel, media, and turnout. Donors rarely dictate every sentence, but parties know which promises might alarm major funders. That knowledge shapes specificity. A platform can endorse broad economic growth without naming every regulatory trade-off. It can praise small business while leaving hard questions about antitrust, taxes, wages, or environmental compliance to later governing fights. State and local candidates read platforms with a different anxiety. A national plank can help a candidate in one district and hurt another in a different political environment. Party leaders therefore write for multiple audiences at once: the base that demands clarity, the persuadable voter who dislikes ideological clutter, the donor who wants reassurance, the activist who wants proof of influence, and the office holder who must later explain the document in a town hall. This is why platform language often carries sharp promises beside escape hatches.
Campaigns then translate the platform into messages. Candidates rarely read the full platform aloud. They choose planks that fit the district, state, office, media market, and opponent. A Senate candidate in a competitive state may emphasize border security, wages, veterans, or energy differently from a House candidate in a safe district. Presidential campaigns reduce platform complexity into memorable lines. The public product becomes more compressed as it moves from convention document to advertisement. The platform is the menu, but the candidate chooses which items to bring to the table. Voters who only watch ads may see the party's most marketable promises. Voters who read the platform can see the larger bundle and the silences around it. Silence deserves careful treatment. A platform may omit an issue because the party does not care, because it is divided, because it fears backlash, because courts or states control the issue, or because campaign professionals think voters will not reward specificity. Silence can be strategic. The useful question is who benefits when a document stays vague. Budget silence carries the most weight. A party can promise tax cuts, new benefits, stronger defense, debt reduction, school support, infrastructure, border enforcement, and healthcare access in the same platform. The hard question is which institution pays and which priority loses when Congress writes appropriations. A platform that does not identify fiscal trade-offs may still reveal values, but it has not solved governing arithmetic. The real test is whether a plank names a funding source, an agency, an enforcement tool, or only an aspiration. Platform comparison also requires source discipline. Official party documents need dates because platform pages can change, candidate pages can simplify, and outside commentators can exaggerate. Quoting the current official document gives the analysis leverage because it rests on the party's own words rather than secondhand outrage. Official platform text is coalition ink laid down under pressure. When a Democratic platform page promises to fight, protect, or expand, and when the Republican 2024 platform uses compressed, emphatic language to seal, stop, or rebuild, the verbs are doing strategic work. They are promises aimed at activists, donors, office holders, and persuadable voters who all need evidence that their priorities survived committee drafting. Document length carries its own message. A long platform can give many constituencies a paragraph and keep a fragile alliance together through recognition. A short platform can center the nominee and reduce the number of internal promises that opponents can weaponize. Neither form is neutral. Each answers a different coalition problem, whether the party needs to display breadth or enforce discipline. The word plank is useful because it sounds like construction, not revelation. Delegates fit one board beside another even when the grain pulls in different directions. A labor plank may reassure unions waiting for labor board appointments. A tax plank may calm business donors watching committee chairs and budget writers. A border plank may speak to sheriffs, governors, and security hawks. A voting rights plank may signal to civil rights organizations that litigation, Justice Department enforcement, and election administration still have a place in the coalition. The final document is a ledger of constituencies that won a sentence, softened a verb, or accepted a silence. That is why platform reading has to stay institutional. Which planks require Congress, which depend on administrative rulemaking, which count on judges, prosecutors, governors, or local school boards, which exist mainly to prove that a faction retained bargaining power at the convention. A platform promise without a governing path can still count politically, but its real function may be coalition maintenance rather than likely enactment. Party platforms show how factions become an official product. They do not bind every future vote, but they create a written record of coalition intention. They tell activists whether the party has heard them. They tell opponents where to attack. They tell voters what issues the party wants associated with its brand. The danger is that platforms can train citizens to accept bundles without inspecting them. A voter may support one plank and inherit 10 others. A voter may dislike part of the platform and still choose the coalition because the alternative feels farther away. That is how a two-party system disciplines thought. It forces citizens to rank priorities. The practical skill is platform literacy. Date the document. Quote the language. Identify the plank. Ask which institution would have to act. Compare the platform to voting records, agency action, judicial appointments, budgets, and campaign rhetoric. Then decide what the platform proves and what it cannot prove. That last step protects citizens from being sold a product with no operating manual. If a platform promise requires Congress, the real question is whether the party can control both chambers and the rules needed to act. If it requires agencies, the question is which statute authorizes action. If it requires courts, the question is whether the promise is really a litigation strategy. Platform literacy turns campaign reading into institutional reading. The unresolved judgment is simple and uncomfortable.
Are party platforms responsible maps of governing intent? Or are they menus designed to make incompatible interests share one table until the election ends? The answer may differ by plank, party, and year. The unresolved question is whether platform text should be read as promise, truce, or advertisement when the coalition wins power.
If you're curious how I'm using AI to build these lectures and reshape higher education, visit thelibertytolearn.com. I'll see you in class.